What's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to the channel. And in this video I'm going to be giving my thoughts on the XFL playoffs that's starting this weekend, and I am looking forward to it. Without further ado though, let's begin. So the final four, we're down to the final four. We got the Arlington Renegades versus the Houston Roughnecks, and the Seattle Sea Dragons versus the DC Defenders. The first game, which is the game on Saturday, the Renegades versus the Roughnecks. Let me get into that game first. So, the Renegades and Roughnecks have played twice earlier in the year. Both games, the Roughnecks won the game. One was all the way back in week 2, and the other one was all the way, was just this past week. But neither of those games, I think, are really a good way of trying to assess what is going to happen in this upcoming game, because the first game was all the way back about 2 months ago, and then it not only was it 2 months ago, the Renegades had a different quarterback then. They didn't have Luis Perez then, so I feel like that game's a little bit, not a good way of trying to predict what's going to happen in this one. And then this past week, neither team was really going all out because they already both had clinched and they knew they were going to be playing their opponent this same opponent the following week, so they kind of held back. So it's kind of hard to know how is this game going to play out between the Renegades and the Roughnecks. But the Roughnecks have a great run defense. They have a good pass rush. I think it's going to be vital for the Renegades offense, and it's really going to be on the shoulders of Luis Perez to be able to make those throws and get the ball out quick against the Roughnecks. But I do think, regardless, the Renegades offense will be limited in this game. I think the maximum amount of points they can score in this game is somewhere around the 22 to 23 points, something of that nature. If the Renegades want to be able to win this game, their defense is really going to have to step up and contain the running game of Max Borghi in company of the Roughnecks. I don't think they have much to fear in Brandon Silvers or Cole McDonald, in the passing attack, but they still need to keep them in check there. I think this is going to be a defensive-oriented game, and I really do believe it can go either way. Both of these teams, I think, are tough. Obviously, the Renegades went 4-6, lost in a lot of close games, but like I said, I really do believe this game could go in either way. It's going to be a low-scoring game. I think the difference in this game is going to come down to the conversions, who gets those 1-pointers, 2-pointers, or 3-pointers, etc. in these close games. The Roughnecks have Cole McDonald, the mobile quarterback, that really helps to have down near the goal line in those situations. I'm going to take the Roughnecks to win it 18-15, somewhere around there. I think it's going to be a fun game and a good defensive slugfest. The next game, the Northern Division Championship, Seattle Sea Dragons versus the DC Defenders. These two teams have already played twice earlier in the year. The Defenders won both of them, but by a combined total of 5 points, both games combined. The first one, the Defenders won 22-18, which was all the way back in week 1. And then the second one, they won 34-33, I believe, and that was in week 8. Obviously this one's going to be in the DC's house. They have a great home field advantage. Their crowd really shows up and gets loud. This is going to be a high-scoring game. It's going to be a shootout, I believe. Both of these offenses have been on a roll lately. Both defenses have shown some issues against tougher offenses. So, I think it's going to be a shootout. I don't think it's going to be in terms of who touches the ball last. But what I do think it's going to come down to is what team has the costly fumble that changes the momentum of the game? Which team has the fumble in the red zone when they could have gone up 2 scores, but instead they fumble and then the other team takes advantage of it? Or what quarterback throws an interception when they're on the verge of tying the game? Mistakes like that, I think, will make the difference in this game, because I don't see either one of these defenses being able to slow down the offenses in terms of getting stops consistently. I think the best shot is just to cause turnovers if you can in pivotal situations. I think that's the best way defense can be played in this particular matchup. Quarterback Ben DiNucci is been maybe the best quarterback in the XFL this year, but he has had a knack of turning the ball over. I believe now he has 7 or 8 straight games with at least one interception. So he is turnover prone, and a lot of his turnovers have came in the red zone throughout this season, which is, very costly, and it did cost the Sea Dragons some of their games. And then with the defenders, Abram Smith, the running back, for as good as he's been, an MVP candidate, he's had a couple of costly fumbles. So I think that's how these two teams beat each other in this game. One of these teams lose it in this game. Ultimately, I am going to take the Sea Dragons to win this game, but again, it can go either way. But I am going to take the Sea Dragons to win this game because the percentages say beating the same team a third time is very tough for the defenders and company. And the defenders, they're not obviously they're the best team right now going into the playoffs. They're 9-1 and they have the best record, but they're not unbeatable. The Orlando Guardians beat them. The San Antonio Brahmas gave them a tough game. They're not unbeatable. And the Sea Dragons are definitely, if anyone can do it, they have a great shot of it. And more than a shot. I got the Sea Dragons winning at 38-35. Now, I am going to predict the championship game here. So we would have Roughnecks versus the Sea Dragons. Now, these two teams played all the way back in Week 5. The Sea Dragons handed the Roughnecks their first loss of the season, 21-14, in a sloppy game for the Roughnecks. In particular, their offense really struggled in that game, and that was like the come back down to earth kind of game for the Roughnecks. This would be an interesting matchup. But I do think the Roughnecks secondary would struggle in this game because for as good as the Roughnecks pass rush and run defense has been, their secondary has struggled, and they will be facing the best wide receiver core in the XFL with possibly the XFL MVP quarterback in Ben DiNucci throwing the ball to them. I think that would be a tough matchup for the Roughnecks, which means they would need to get some good pressure with only sending 3 or 4 guys so they can leave as many guys in coverage as possible to deal with those receivers. And then the Roughnecks, I think they would need to get a running game going in this game to control the clock and own the time of possession to keep DiNucci and company off the field. This would be an interesting matchup, but I can see any of the possibilities happening. But yeah, this is the one I am leaning towards, Roughnecks versus the Sea Dragons in the Alamo Dome. And I would pick the Seattle Sea Dragons to win it 27-21 in a good championship game. I am looking forward to these games. I'm excited to see how this plays out. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And other than that, I'll see you guys next time.